Hi, Dav here, and today we have a new episode in the Art Review series. And today we'll be checking out the work of Croquette. Now, I did mention this artist in a previous video, reviewing the work of YeeJ Chan, and they do have a similar way of painting, and even the subjects they do tend to focus on like the face a lot, in this very close up kind of a view. And some markers, like they do love rendering the eyes, like the pupils. It's almost like its own universe, right? Or like just look at any kind of galaxy photo online, and it just feels so. Even though they're just eyes, but they feel like there's like an entire story behind it. There's a saying that the eyes are the window to the soul, and or windows to the soul, and you do feel that when you look at their artwork. So let me just see their process here. They do have a bunch of videos, and you can compare this artist to like YeeJ Chan as well, because they do have that really impressionistic sort of painterly style. Now, when you zoom out, it's kind of hard to see. You will see a little bit of it, but it's not like you see a bunch of big brush strokes. You will see more of that impressionistic sort of inclination when you do zoom in. So the time lapse here is pretty fast. I think they're recording this via the Clip Studio Paint time lapse feature, or like yeah. But even in the end, they do have that watercolor-esque vibe when it comes to this approach. Although I do notice Croquette likes to go even deeper with the hair. Like they really like refining it way more. Even more so than the actual eyes. Right? I mean, the eyes was still kind of like really detailed, but is there line work? Well, there is, but it's really on the contours. It's very similar to, again, YeeJ Chan. Let me just zoom in. Notice how the lines are still on the outside, but everything inside those major shapes, which is confined by those lines. Let me show you, right? Line. Everything within that's encompassed by these lines. They don't like to define it with more lines. They just paint it. So whenever you see like a difference in like value or shape, they define it via via a difference in values, and not necessarily by adding a line or even a pseudo line. You don't really get that much. It's like just painted. I'm really interested with how these artists like render the face. Like look at how soft and gradual it becomes. It's so freaking insane. Fuck. And you do see again the transparency in their work, or the opacity in their brushstrokes. Like they just allow the paint to sort of bleed through. Even the clothing here, I think this is Miku, right? I think it's Miku. Oh, we even have like a phone here. Oh, I do see. What do we see? We do see an RGB shift effect, and you often see this on the sides. It does help give you that sort of focused effect without having to use the blur tool. Because the thing is, when you use the blur tool, sometimes it kind of feels like a waste sometimes, because you're like you paint something and then you blur it. It's almost like you're washing out the details. But with the RGB shift effect, the details kind of remain, but it's sort of a balance between keeping those details, but at the same time giving that kind of shift effect, right? Which makes it look kind of blurry, but it doesn't take away as much detail as a blur effect. We've seen this too with the work of YeeJ Chan. So, I've seen this one before. I think this has been maybe on Pinterest, but this has been retweeted or reposted, repinned quite a few times. So we have some sketches here. Oh, very interesting. So they're very sketchy as well in the beginning, very rough. But the moment they start rendering it, it's like freaking deep. Oh, I do like their sketches too. So a close up of the ear, maybe, in the eye as well. Oh wait, I think I've seen some of their sketches before on Twitter, but perhaps it's like a sketch account. I'm not even sure, but yeah, I think it just shows you that as much as the rendering is great, they do have a solid base in their in their drawing sort of skills. This one's cute. Even the water looks freaking amazing. Oh god, they painted the whole thing. Oh, it's so over, right? Even the white stuff. You know how when you go to the beach, you see the sort of like bubbly parts of the water when the salt water hits the shore or the sand. They were even able to illustrate that and some noise textures to add that kind of sparkly effect. It's so cool. Now this one is it's really hard to see the brush strokes even in this zoom kind of level. Damn. But you do see those subtle shift in hues, right? And they do have, again, if you look at the folds, look at how some of the colors bleed into other like adjacent colors. For example, this blue, it bleeds into this kind of brown yellow thing. Very watercolor-esque. Even in this part right here, look at the underlighting. This kind of aqua blue, right? Some purple. Very soft, subtle shifts in hues, right? Very interesting. Even their shadows have that kind of nice hue variety. Like it's not just one big shape. I mean, yeah, the silhouette is clear, but they do paint those extra stuff in there. It's so insane. Okay, let me just move on. What the hell is this? Is that, I'm not sure what it is, but it's very cute, very kawaii. Man, they have a lot of likes. How many subscribers does this person? Oh shit. Let's check out YeeJ. Oh my god, like, these people are insane. Oh, I like this one too. Let me zoom in. Yeah, I think they like the hair more than the eyes. Well, it's almost at the same level, but I think for YeeJ Chan, the last artist we reviewed, I think they like the eyes more. For Croquette, I think they do enjoy a little the hair just a bit more, right? Price, look at the fabric and how it's almost like a wave of colors, like it's like a river that just flows into each other. It's sort of the same thing in the hair. It's like a freaking like, oh my. I do think they are very intuitive when they do this. I don't know. I don't want to say, because sometimes it sounds like I'm saying it's just like natural talent. I don't want to say that, because just based on their portfolio or their feed, they do a lot of painting. So it's from their own skill that they've earned. But at the same time, like, if you're that good, sometimes people would think you're like inherently magical, you know? Oh, this one's interesting because the face is a bit more mature than the other faces we typically see. Let me just click on this. Oh, I guess it's also because of the hairstyle. The eyes are a bit smaller, but the hairstyle is also like straight. She's offering you like an apple with like a snake. Dangerous. Stranger danger. But hot, right? But this is also a demonstration that you can just do the subjects you want. For example, how often do you see, let's say for example for Croquette here, to do full body illustrations? On average, the vast majority of the time, they do like to focus on the face. I mean, yeah, you see some stuff where they do kind of the torso, some parts of the leg, kind of this one as well. But you can tell that they've just dominated like the face, the hair, the head, the eyes. So it's not bad to do that, because you will develop an expertise eventually if you just limit the things you draw or paint or illustrate. Even the fact that they did this, it shows that they do have an appreciation for hair. So it's kind of a back hair study. Interesting. You know what? Let me zoom in so we can have some more fun. Okay, it's taking a while to load. Maybe it's that big. Oh, we can't zoom in. That sucks. Interesting. Look at the outer lines. They're kind of orange. Reminds me of Ask as well, or Askia. Very famous anime artist. I especially like their for Ask, their fan art of the Evangelion characters. Like they have a series where they did like a bunch of fan art pieces of the characters from Evangelion. You know, Shinji, Mari, Asuka, Rei, and like they were all like sort of laying down or seated as well. And they also have like separate pieces where they were focused on the face. I do remember seeing these lines in their work as well, where it's kind of in the outer side to define like the whole thing, but it's also colored. You know, they don't often use black. When they do lines, they don't like using blacks. They like the line work to blend into the painting. And I've noticed that the people tend to use like a reddish color. It's not always in the skin too. For example, this one is hitting the hair, right? I think red just looks. Maybe the reason why they use red or orange is because if you turn that into grayscale, I know red is like the darkest value out of all the colors, right? So it has a certain heaviness to it that makes it the closest to a black line, but it's not actually like a black line. So that's why they choose it. That's my guess. But yeah, let me just zoom in. Hopefully we can zoom in on this one. Let me just right. Can we zoom in? Oh, we do see a little RGB shift again, but it's in the sides. It's taking a while to load. Maybe it's super big or something. But yeah, lots of I do love the subsurface scattering in the hands. Well, in the face too, but basically it's not just a flat thing. You do see a bunch of saturated areas again in the Terminator line areas, or you know, where you see that subsurface scattering. Basically, whenever I see orange in the skin, that kind of like super saturated color, it's you can't zoom in. That's sad. I've noticed when you post images on Instagram, it does get like downgraded, unlike on X or Twitter, where you can sometimes or often even like really zoom in, and it's freaking cool. But yeah, Christ, like everything is almost equally rendered, right? Look at the polo shirt, the sweater, the hands, the face, the hair, even these like the arrows, these kind of like bell thingies, the ribbons. Even these water droplets. Like I'm inspired, but at the same time I'm kind of like discouraged. You know, there are art pieces like that where it's sort of in between, where it can like shift your perceptions. Like at one moment you're like super inspired to like try shit, but the next moment you're like, like what's the point? Oh, this one, the style is a bit different, like the way they did the face. I'm not sure if it's fan art, but yeah. Interesting. You're seeing the light from the bottom. So, yeah. Interesting. I like the way they did the fingers or the nails. There are artists who, when they do draw nails for their characters, they like to blend it with the skin. We've seen this too when some artists like render the eyes. Like they don't always like adding this kind of even if it's a pseudo line. Sometimes they'll just let the white part of the eye sort of bleed into the skin. So we do see the same thing with, say, right, the fingertip and the nail. It's like one shape, and then it just blends via like a gradient or something. Same thing here. You could have added like a line to show where the nail ends, but you don't really have that. It's like, it's just sort of like you do see the texture of a nail here. You see that reflection, right? But you don't have a line here. It just sort of fades in. I mean, maybe you see it a little bit, but it's almost hard to see when you zoom out. So I have noticed that. Like you don't always have to define every edge with a line. And you don't even need to make that edge clear as well. Let's say you can define an edge via a difference in values, but what's the difference in value here? It's hard to see that difference at all. You know, it's basically like a gradient. So seeing stuff like this, it just shows you that you can solve these sort of things in a way that saves time. And I think this is a good example of how you can save time. And it also looks kind of good. You know, it looks very interesting if you approach things this way. Not everything has to be defined by an edge. Shit, I can't talk. Fuck. Sorry. But yeah. Jesus. But again, you still see that transparency in their work. Although for the face, it looks very 3D. But yeah. So we'll see this first and cycle through. So it's a close-up. Interesting. Let's see this one. Coffee. Yeah. Christ. It's so interesting. You know, it's very risky doing blues in the skin because whenever I've tried it, my characters look kind of dead. So it's very interesting how. Let's zoom in here. Right? Like this part over here. Like, how do you achieve adding cooler temperature colors in your skin without your characters looking dead? You know? Because when you think of skin, you think like warm colors, right? So it's a very interesting thing if you can make it look still kind of alive while using cooler colors. Maybe it's because there's enough like warmth here, even in this side of the leg, that it compensates maybe, so it doesn't look as dead. Or maybe if you do use cools, you want to make sure a significant portion of it is like saturated, which you will see, or you do see in the blues here, like the aqua color. It's pretty saturated. Fuck. It's pretty saturated. Reminds me also of Rokuta. I think I did an art review of their work. They also like doing this approach where it looks very watercolor-esque, you know? And they also tend to focus on the face a lot in their like portrait sort of pieces. Like you don't see a lot of like dynamic poses, like, you know, they're jumping or fighting. It's not like narrative art or sequential art. It's like it's designed to be like a one set thing, like a poster or a cover or some kind of album art, right? So again, it's not just the subject matter that you can like be fixed on. Let's say for Croquette, it's gonna be portraits, women, close up on the face. So it's not just the subject, but also the context. You know, they're almost all of these characters are like looking at the camera or looking at you directly, almost always, and they're not doing anything super wild. You know, like the wildness really comes from how it's like rendered or painted. You will see it in like obviously the colors, the hair, even the eyes. Like you will see so much story. Just like if you leave everything as just black and white, and you just render the eyes, like that's still gonna be such a powerful. It's gonna have like a really powerful effect still, because they like to showcase that sort of wildness in the way they paint, and they make you want to observe the subtleties, I guess, right? The subtle shift in hues, in values, in texture. That's where the chaos is. The wild sort of side that they want you to see, you know? So their style, as you go further back, it does change a bit more. I've noted they do draw some guys, I think. I think this is a guy, I'm not sure. But you will clearly see the sort of jump in development in their like style or approach. But yeah, I guess you just have to keep painting and eventually you're gonna be like Croquette, cope. So yeah, just check out Croquette. You know, last episode we checked out the work of YeeJ Chan. Very similar artists, like just crazy detail in their work. And they're both painterly as hell. Yeah. So find what you love, find what you enjoy doing, and just stick to it, right? And one day you will be just like these people. Cope. Anyway, that's it for this art review of Croquette. Thank you, by the way. I've followed this artist for a while now, but I was reminded of this artist by one of your comments. So, you know, I do check the artists you mentioned in the description below or in the comments section. But yeah, so that's it, and I'll see you in the next review. Bye.